Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a really focused look at the architecture of software systems. Specifically, we're untangling how dependencies actually flow through a codebase. If you've ever felt like the structural rules of programming are kind of working against you rather than for you, well, you are in exactly the right place.
Let's kick things off with a scenario that, honestly, I think pretty much every developer has experienced. Have you ever been forced to implement this massive, bloated 12-method interface just to satisfy a contract where you literally only needed 2 of those methods? So what do? Right, you end up writing 10 dummy methods that either do absolutely nothing or just throw a not implemented exception. It's frustrating, it's super messy, and let's be real, it's practically a shared trauma among developers trying to wrestle with these monolithic contracts. To fix this, we've got to look at 2 specific letters in the famous SOLID acronym, the I and the D. But here's the thing, we shouldn't view the interface segregation principle and the dependency inversion principle as isolated, standalone rules. Instead, think of them as a cooperating pair. Working together, ISP and DIP act to shape, control, and ultimately completely tame the flow of dependencies in your codebase. All right, part 1, splitting by client need. Okay, let's dive into this. To cure that 12-method interface trap, we really have to rethink how we group methods in the first place. When we design interfaces based on the internal symmetry of an implementation, like, say, lumping all shopping cart actions together, we inevitably create those bloated contracts. Think about it. If a module only needs to calculate taxes, it absolutely shouldn't be forced to depend on discount calculators and inventory checkers. The right way? Splitting by client need. We want to create interfaces based exclusively on what the calling client actually requires. And that brings us directly to the mechanics of the interface segregation principle. The core idea here is to split those, fat interfaces into much smaller, unique pieces. You really want to keep your interfaces highly cohesive, narrow, and intensely focused on just one thing. Why? Because clients should literally never be forced to depend on methods they don't use. It's that simple. By strictly segregating your interfaces, you prevent that dangerous ripple effect, where a tiny tweak in one part of your system suddenly forces you to recompile and redeploy completely unrelated modules. Talk about a headache saved, right?
Moving on to part 2, flipping the dependency arrow. Now, let's look at the second half of our cooperating pair and actually visualize exactly how dependencies are inverted and how we take back control of our system's architecture. And this brilliantly illustrates the mechanical genius of dependency inversion. Picture a dependency diagram in your head. Okay, so step 1, your high-level business logic depends directly on a low-level detail, like a database. The dependency arrow points down. In step 2, we wedge an abstraction, an interface, right in between them. And then step 3, well, this is where the magic happens. The low-level database module is now forced to implement that abstraction. So the arrow from the low-level module literally flips up to point at the interface. Boom! You have inverted the dependency. Which brings us to the formal rule, high-level modules should not depend on low-level modules. Both should depend on abstractions. Now, what does this actually do for us? It protects your most valuable code, your high-level business policy, from the gritty, constantly changing details of low-level mechanisms. If you suddenly need to swap out a MySQL database for an in-memory test database, your high-level code shouldn't even blink. It doesn't care. It just talks to the abstraction. All right, part 3. Principle versus technique. So a lot of us arrive at this topic with some kind of garbled mental models, usually thanks to a confusing blog post or two. Let's unscramble a very, very common misconception right now. On the left, we have dependency inversion. That's a high-level architectural principle. On the right, we have dependency injection, which is merely a structural wiring technique. Now sure, they sound similar, and they do often work together, but they are fundamentally different things. Let's just completely decouple these concepts for a second. DIP is entirely about architecture, decoupling, and abstraction. Dependency injection, on the other hand, it's really just a fancy mechanism for passing arguments, like handing a database connection to a class through its constructor. The reality is, you can easily inject dependencies without ever actually inverting them, and conversely, you can practice perfect dependency inversion without ever touching a heavy, automated DI container. Injecting a dependency absolutely doesn't automatically mean you've inverted the architectural flow. Moving into part 4, the interface tax. Now, I want to shift the tone here towards extreme pragmatism because, let's face it, introducing abstractions to your codebase is never a free lunch. We need a bit of a sobering reality check. Read this quote carefully. Every interface is a tax, paid in indirection, wiring, and cognitive load. I mean, we've all seen those code bases that are just wildly over-engineered, right? Where you have to jump through 5 layers of interfaces just to find the actual code doing the work. That right there is the interface tax. While abstractions bring flexibility, they also hide details, making the code harder to follow and significantly increasing the mental effort required to just understand the system. So the crucial point is this. Apply the interface segregation principle and the dependency inversion principle only where dependencies actually need to flex, not everywhere. If you try to anticipate every single future change and abstract everything prematurely, you're just going to end up with a completely unintelligible code base. Be strategic about it. Use these principles at the architectural boundaries where you absolutely know implementations will swap, like third-party APIs or databases.
And finally, Part 5, Owning the Abstraction.
Let's bring ISP and DIP together for our final and, honestly, arguably most important takeaway. This is the absolute mic drop rule of dependency inversion. The abstraction belongs to the caller, not the callee. Think about it. If the low-level implementation dictates the shape of the interface, you haven't inverted anything. You've really just disguised the coupling. To truly invert the dependency, the high-level policy module, the caller, must define, shape, and own that interface based strictly on its own needs. So let's wrap up with a final thought. I want you to look at your own code today and ask yourself, are you designing interfaces for the system you actually have or the system you imagine? Premature abstraction is a trap for sure, but pragmatic, targeted use of ISP and DIP, that will make your code resilient, highly testable, and genuinely a joy to work with. Thanks so much for joining me in this explainer. Now go take a fresh look at those dependency arrows in your own projects.